Good afternoon. Welcome to the Lentswe podcast at Transnet. It's a special day today. We're broadcasting live from Transnet Engineering at the Kodosport plant in Pretoria. It is the Transnet Industry Day. We have our CEO, we have our CE, we have our clients, we have our stakeholders joining us today just to come see what it is that we do. And today we have Mr. Wilson Mogoba, the GM at Business Development. Hi, Wilson.
Hello.
How are you today?
Good and you?
Good, thank you.
Awesome.
We saw you earlier. You took part in the panel discussion with the other GMs from TE. And we know that also as part of BD, Transnet has recently issued an RFQ to the market. And this is part of the LeaseCo project that you lead.
Correct.
Can you tell us a bit more about what's happening with that?
Yeah, so the LeaseCo is an initiative being run by Transnet to essentially improve access to rolling stock. The context of that being that in traditional setups, rolling stock has always been a capital acquisition.
Okay.
And rolling stock is quite expensive.
Okay.
If you look at a locomotive and a wagons, all very expensive. So we are setting up the LeaseCo to improve access to rolling stock to the market. It sits very well with supporting the rail reform that's taking place in the country. And essentially we see it as a significant vehicle for helping the rail transformation on the one hand, but also a very important vehicle for diversifying Transnet's own revenue. Okay. So that's what the LeaseCo is all about.
Okay. And then what are the timelines around this project?
So we have just launched the request for qualification, which is step one of a two-step external partner selection process. So in step one, the RFQ, what we've done is I think we issued it on the 8th of April, and it closes on the 4th of July, if I recall correctly. And so in this first step, what we're trying to do is we are looking to qualify potential bidders to then participate in the second stage, which will be the issuance of the RFP. So the RFQ closes on the 4th of July. That will then be followed by the RFP, which we are expecting to issue before the end of the year, 2025. And from there, I think by around, call it 18 months from then on, which takes us to about 2027. We should have completed all the external partner selection processes and essentially be in a position to effectively kickstart the rolling stock leasing company. So that's the timeline as far as establishing the LeaseCo goes. Now, let's also be reminded that we are doing this in two stages. There is the main LeaseCo itself, which is where we are going to create a new company and we have external partners. But because of the length of time that's going to take, what we are also doing currently is enabling customers to access rolling stock as we speak right now. So that is a complementary exercise, and that's already up and running. And in fact, I think we potentially have already signed up our first customer, and we're in the process of onboarding many more customers. So depending on how you slice it, you could very much argue, and I will argue, that the LeaseCo is already up and running. It's just the second part, which is onboarding the private sector partner that's currently work in progress.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. And Wilson, just for clarity, I'd say over the past 6 months in particular, there's been a lot of conversation with Transnet, even from our shareholder minister, inviting public sector participation. We've seen with our OD, our new OD trim, also opening slots to PSP. And there was actually, I think they announced the latest, the selection of bidders as recently as last week. So just for clarity, the LeaseCo project, is this a similar PSP project as we are reinventing Transnet, positioning ourselves with more collaborations from external stakeholders? Is this a similar project?
Yeah, I think it forms part of the broader strategy of reinvention for growth. So what we see is under the infrastructure manager trim, they're essentially taking ownership of the rail asset itself, the infrastructure, and then opening it up to external partners or train operating companies.
Okay.
Now, what we anticipate, and this is where then the LeaseCo comes in, is that any train operating company is going to need access to rolling stock.
Okay.
And therefore, the LeaseCo itself then is an entity that complements that particular need. So what we see is that the LeaseCo comes on board to provide the assets that are going to enable the TOCs to operate on the slots that they've been allocated by TRIM.
Oh.
So it's a whole chain.
So it's a complementary project.
It's a complementary project, absolutely.
Okay, this was actually collaboration happening within Transnet.
Yes.
Before we
get out.
External.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the good thing is that we're seeing this as a vehicle that's enabling the rail transformation, which is obviously being driven at a national level, but equally within Transnet. So this whole transformation effort is then going to be realized in part TRIM providing the infrastructure, and then LeaseCo on the other hand providing the rolling stock assets, and TE then providing the technical capacity that is required to support these assets. So we really are positioned ourselves to support the entire value chain, if you will.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. And on that very last point, we are conducting this interview sitting comfortably in one of the locomotives constructed by TE.
Yep.
Can you just expand a bit the role of TE in the work that you're doing, and maybe also the role of our other ODs? Because we've seen TE talk about their capabilities, the different divisions that they have, and just the strength that they have in reforming our rail sector, not just in South Africa, but also as a capable manufacturer for the entire continent. Yeah.
So cool. I mean, this is quite a dope facility. I mean, if I had the money, I wouldn't mind. If I had the money, I wouldn't mind having this. If I had the money, and also if I had the railway line next in my house, I would really pack this up.
Really is comfortable.
Yeah. But effectively, in Transnet Engineering, we have some extreme depth of capabilities. As the show has taken us this morning, it's in manufacturing, it's in remanufacturing, maintenance, research and development. Anything railways, rolling stock, is a space that TE is extremely well positioned to play. So, and not only are they good, do they have that capability, they also have the capacity. In terms of the different infrastructure assets, they have the 6 depots and the 143 support depots that they have. So, in effect, what we then see TE as being able to do is bringing its expertise to support the LeaseCo. So maybe let me step back for a minute and explain how we envision this. When the LeaseCo is established, it will have, when the LeaseCo is established, it will have rolling stock assets that it now wants to lease to customers. So if you as a customer comes to the LeaseCo and say, hey, I'm in need of certain wagons and locomotives, if those are available, the LeaseCo effectively enters into a relationship with yourself as a customer and says, I'm availing these assets. Now, as a customer, because you are leasing these assets, what you will be requiring is that these assets are available to perform the job that they must effectively, that you've acquired them for. So if you want your locomotives moving, your wagons moving from end to end, those must be there because you don't want to sit with the headache of assets that are breaking down. Now, the way we are then positioning that is that in order for that to happen, someone must be able to ensure that the assets are technically sound and that they are available as and when you require them for service. So TE in particular is then being positioned to be the entity that ensures that these assets, as you as a customer use them, that they are always mechanically sound and they are available to be able to serve your business. Furthermore, some of the assets will require a bit of remanufacturing because they've been standing for too long. TE, again, we will leverage its manufacturing capabilities to be able to manufacture these assets. And then last but not least is then the aspect of the fact that when there's demand for new assets, as we're already seeing coming up, then there's an opportunity for TE as well to manufacture new assets. So we really see TE as being an integral part in enabling LeaseCo to deliver its services to its customers. And that's why we are spending the day here with TE to create that awareness around what TE's capabilities are, for the industry to see and to really get to appreciate the depth of expertise that TE has. But that, in essence, is how we are positioning TE to be able to support the LeaseCo.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Wilson. It's quite inspiring to hear of the collaborative work being done inside Transnet, so that we can bring in new partners.
Yes.
That's the way forward.
Yes.
And we're letting everyone know that Transnet is open for business.
Absolutely.
We're ready to roll.
That's our mantra. Not only are we ready to roll, we are rolling.
We are rolling.
We are already rolling.
We
I
are
mean, if you
rolling.
look at Trim is rolling.
Yes.
LeaseCo is rolling because we're already leasing out assets. We're asking everyone to join this lovely train and let's move forward.
Nicely.
Let's move in. The
Cruising
train's already,
nicely.
it's already, train's already cruising.
Wilson, thank you so much. This conversation is happening right before we go into the Africa Rail Conference tomorrow, and we'll also be there as well as a partner.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to the Africa Rail. I think it gives us a good opportunity to showcase not only the LeaseCo but Transnet's vast capabilities to the rest of the world. So it's a session that I'm really looking forward to.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Wilson, there is so much happening, so much exciting work being done.
Yep.
Planning the future of Transnet, not just for now, but for the next coming years and next coming generations. When you look at all the work being done now, and this is just the beginning, but I'm sure there's a vision of what it will look like when it all is completed. Let's say when we check in 3 to 5 years, what will the success of this LeaseCo look like? What will be the on the list
of critical success?
Yeah.
I think the one very obvious success is that by that time we will have a private sector partner on board.
Okay.
That the LeaseCo as an entity will have been established, and that the LeaseCo as an entity will be in the business of already serving its customers.
Okay.
So the way I see it is that we are starting up the LeaseCo with a number of assets, 21,000 wagons, 600 locomotives. But we see the demand really growing significantly beyond that. If you aggregate the demand that's going to come from within South Africa and also from within the region, we really see the LeaseCo as really taking off. And so these assets that we've put in, you would consider them as our seed capital. So in 3 to 5 years' time, when I look back, for me to gauge success, I'll be like, well, is the LeaseCo up and running? Does it have a credible private sector partner? And most critically, is it delivering assets to its customers? If we have those things up and running, I'll be happy that then LeaseCo, the vision of the LeaseCo, will by and large have been met. And critically, it will be making money for all its partners.
Yes.
Gotta make the money, bottom line.
The books.
At the end of
balance.
the day, at the end of the day, it's gonna make money because at the end of the day, we are setting up a business that's gonna make money. So yeah, a critical success will really be that all those financial projections that we are making in the modeling are beginning to come to life. If that happens, I'll be quite happy.
That's amazing to hear, Wilson. And we are rolling, like you did say. We
Yep.
are working.
We are
Work
working.
has started.
Yes, we are moving.
We're
on.
moving.
We are
We're
moving. Yes.
And Wilson, when you were on the panel,
Yeah.
there were so many interesting questions coming from the floor, from the different stakeholders from all over, and not just South Africa. There was a gentleman who spoke from Gabon, who's also interested in the work that we're doing. And just as a reminder that our work transcends across the South African border.
Exactly.
As part of your work as BD and with this project, but just the work that you're doing, what does the future look like? Transnet in Africa, not just in South Africa, because we are still a sector leader in the logistics industry.
Yeah.
And our work transcends what we do in South Africa.
Exactly. It really does. Look, I mean, if you look to our statement of strategic intent, there are a couple of things that we are asked to do: reduce the cost of doing business. That's looking at logistics, and not only just in South Africa but within the region. And so another key pillar of strategic intention is to integrate South Africa with Africa and the rest of the world. So what we see the LeaseCo really doing in the region, if you will, is significantly improving access to rolling stock. And so by so doing, we then anticipate that this will then lead towards a greater uptake of rolling stock, and most importantly, the movement of cargo on the various rail corridors. Now, already what we're seeing ourselves is in the region, we're already supporting some of the neighboring railways. Earlier on, I mentioned the National Railways of Zimbabwe as well as Zambia Railways Limited, where we've already provided them with assets, leased to them rolling stock assets that they're already using for their own business operations. We see that increasing. The gentleman from Gabon, once we get to meet with them, we'll get to understand their needs, but I'm pretty sure that part of those needs will also require access to rolling stock as well as technical services. So what we really see in my mind going forward is a Transnet that is really playing a very pivotal role in addressing the needs of the continent. And so in our Africa strategy that we've just designed or that's just defined, key to that is two things. We want to increase rail on traffic, particularly the cross-border, because you know that South Africa's rail network is very well integrated into all the countries that surround us, all the way up to the DRC. So we want to see those corridors working better, having a lot more freight moving up and down in those corridors. And so the LeaseCo is going to play a pivotal role in that because it then provides the assets that will enable the movement of this rolling stock. So we're quite bullish about what the future looks like. And I am very excited to see the growth and the changes that are happening in Africa. And I think the fact that LeaseCo, or Transnet in particular, is playing a central role in this is something that I'm extremely proud of.
Quite amazing,
Awesome.
Quite amazing, Wilson. Thank you so much. And we're having this conversation on the eve of the bigger conversation about
Yes.
Africa and Rail, the Africa Rail Conference.
Yeah.
We will be there as well as a partner, and we'll be hearing more of what we're doing.
Cool. We look forward to seeing you.
Yes.
And let's talk about rail in Africa and all the great capabilities that we're able to unlock and make Africa a bright, bright, bright future.
Absolutely. As we always say here at home, when Transnet works,
Yeah,
South Africa works.
Yes, exactly.
Always.
In this case, it's going to be when Transnet works, Africa works. That's what we want to
We're
get
going
to.
bigger.
Yep.
Going bigger. Wilson, thank you so much.
Awesome.
We'll see each other at Africa Rail Conference.
Coolio, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you so much for tuning in, for watching the Lentswe podcast. We have lots more to say. Please subscribe, like, follow us on all our channels. See you next time.